What's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I wanted to make a separate video talking specifically about Nick Walker now that some more pictures have came out. These were pictures that the Olympia posted and also some pictures from Rep 1 that I think give you guys a more clear view of Nick's physique. I don't think a lot of the live stream footage was that clear, so some of the pictures coming out are a lot better. And I think it really just comes down to Nick missed his peak here. He was off for sure. This wasn't the same Nick that we saw in Pittsburgh against Derek. He was just missing that pop, that detail. And I feel like I would have at least liked to see them move him in that first call out and at least put him next to some of the top guys, because Nick was the only guy that didn't get the opportunity to move more inward in that call out. So even if he was off here, I would have liked to see him just moved around a little bit, at least got to stand next to Derek since that was the main rivalry. But he was definitely off here. I mean, if you look at his lower body, particularly his quads, they look almost downsized. They look flat. They're kind of lacking that deep separation. It makes him look really top heavy when that happens, and he just doesn't have that same level of detail that we saw from him at the Pittsburgh show. He was definitely a different version of Nick here. I think arguably he looked even better in both Pittsburgh and at the New York Pro than he looked here. And I wanted to also show you guys that call out. So this wasn't the second call out. This was the call out that was for placings. This would be 5th through 10th. So you had the call out of Samson, Hottie, Derek, and Andrew. But then you also had this call out, which had Good Vito, Tonio, Martin, Nick, Brandon Curry, and William Bonac. And like, even when Nick is standing next to Brandon Curry, and Brandon Curry is not known for his lower body, so credit to Brandon here because his legs actually look pretty good next to Nick's. I would argue Brandon's legs almost look bigger than Nick's in these pictures. And then standing next to Martin, Martin's quads look insanely full, and he's got those deep splits. And I feel like with Nick, in some of these shots, honestly, I feel like you're almost noticing the veins in his legs more than you're noticing the splits. And I think Good Vito was a big standout for me in this lineup. This means that Good Vito will be in the top 10 because, like I said, these will be placings 5th through 10th. And very clearly, I mean, Martin and Nick are fighting for that 5th and 6th place spot. And I think you could make a strong argument for Martin, particularly because of the lower body. But for me, this was definitely one of the more interesting callouts of the night because, again, it determined who's going to be in the top 10 and who's not. And like I said, some of the other guys that we've talked about, like Neckzilla, Regan, Brett Wilkin, everybody else was outside of this top 10. So honestly, Brandon looks really impressive next to Nick, especially in some of these front shots. Nick still looked good in the back double. He still looked pretty good in the side shots. But like, even in a shot like the most muscular, I think this is a good example. The most muscular is typically one of Nick's bread and butter shots. Nick Walker usually looks insanely freaky. Obviously, he's one of the most muscular guys on stage. That's where his conditioning really shines. That's where his freak factor really shines. That's where you normally see the wow factor from Nick Walker. I think next to Martin, you almost can argue that Martin takes the most muscular. And in fact, I think he does. You see a little bit more fullness and detail from him in that pose. And again, that's something that typically is a bread and butter all day Nick Walker winning that shot. And I think when he hits it next to Martin, I think you're making a pretty strong argument for Martin taking that pose, and that's not typically something that anybody really beats Nick Walker in. But like I said, I still feel like he looked really strong in the back double bicep, but even in that pose, which is one of his best poses, that back double, I feel like you're not seeing that same level of detail, those really carved out hamstrings. You're not seeing that detail in the glutes. The upper back looks pretty good. He's still got that pretty good amount of detail in the upper back, but he's still kind of lacking that wow factor that he had in Pittsburgh, where if you go back to Pittsburgh, people were making the argument that he even beat Derek Lunsford in the back double bicep, and Derek is considered the king of the back poses. You're really not seeing that same Nick here. And then even going over to the front double bicep pose, another shot that honestly is usually a pretty strong shot for Nick. I feel like when I look at this pose, I'm kind of more drawn to Martin because of the flow that his physique has in this pose. And like, his upper body and lower body match better. They're proportioned better. Again, Nick kind of has a top heavy look. His waist looks a little bit thick here. especially in this lineup. And then kind of, even though Good Vito's not standing next to Nick, my eyes are drawn over to him more than anybody off to the side, even though he wasn't standing directly next to Nick. I think this was a really strong showing for Good Vito, and I think it's pretty impressive that of all the guys making their Olympia debut this year, he's the only one. Good Vito is the only one that cracked the top 10. He's the only one in this call-out, and this was it. This was the last guys that'll be in that top 10. And for Good Vito, honestly, for him to be at his Olympia debut in the same call-out as Nick, Martin, Brandon, Bonac, Antonio, Brandon Curry is a Mr. Olympia champ, multiple-time Arnold Classic winner. Bonac, same thing, multiple-time Arnold Classic winner. He's been a runner-up at the Olympia. Nick Walker's been top 3 at the Olympia. He's an Arnold Classic champ. Martin Fitzwater was top 4 at the Olympia. Tonio Burton was 8th at his last Olympia. Good Vito is in really, really good company in this lineup, and I think the future is very, very bright for him. I mean, just think about how crazy that is. His Olympia debut, and he's in this lineup. This lineup could be a first call-out at any show. And this is the second call-out. This doesn't even include the top 4, and this would be an ultra-competitive lineup at any other show. This call-out here looks like an Arnold Classic lineup. Like, this is like a championship-level lineup. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, it looks like it's going to come down to Nick being in 5th or 6th, and it looks like it's between him and Martin. I mean, they switched them to either side of each other in the center. But who do you think takes it, Nick or Martin?
Arnold Arcade. Blast physiques with aggressive lasers. Unleash your arsenal of flash and trash. Armed with fog machines, lasers, and an endless thirst for attention. Stack power in Flextress. Chase glory in chasing gains. Play solo. Team up with a friend or battle online. And best of all, like the live stream, it's all free. Arnold Arcade. Download yours today.
And then also kind of again going back to that first call out, when you look at these guys, all 6 of these guys in that first call-out, do you think Nick should have at least been moved to give him a comparison with the other guys, or do you think the way that he looked here was such that he deserved to be on the end that whole call-out, and they just knew immediately he was going to go in that second call-out for 5th through 10th? And what do you guys think of his physique and how he looked here? What do you think happened? What do you think went wrong? What do you think was the reason that he is placing where he's at and he's getting called out where he's at? Do you think there's a chance that he can fix it for the finals? I mean, Nick was extraordinarily confident going into this show. The fan base, I would say the fan base was overwhelmingly in support of Nick at least being top 3. He had some of the most impressive physique updates of the entire contest season. I mean, more people were really talking about him than anybody else. And now here we are after prejudging, and not only is Nick not in the conversation for the win, it looks like he's not in the conversation for top 3 or, top 4 for that matter. And do you think that would have changed had he gotten moved at all in that first call-out? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And as always, I love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power, my Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power, my secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.